Actually, looking out here, you guys should be able to see me in that camera, orange, red, and yellow. So my bridal party, I'm usually the hottest thing in the picture. So everything around me should be somewhat blue or black. Those are our colder areas. This is set up to white, hot, black, cold. So we're literally looking for those blue and black spots to move on their own. Johnny, when you're watching this thing throughout the night, I want you to tell me whatever you see as far as anything moving, as far as blue or black pieces, but also you try to keep somebody in view at all times. Obviously, my skin temperature is going to be the warmest thing out here, along with everybody else's. You take me out of the picture, the orange, red, and yellow goes somewhere else. The cool thing about your specific video that you guys are going to get back tomorrow is there is a blue dot that bounces around the screen that shows you the coldest area in the frame at that second. So we're going to constantly be looking at that when you guys get your video back. We're going to do start and stops with your video as well. Keep this camera on your left-hand side. So when I tell you to even restart it, you definitely want to get the camera back to the left-hand side. Why? Keep 1 second. Just want to make sure it's keeping the camera charged. The reason for that is the video goes to YouTube. I splice it all together so you guys have one video, and YouTube doesn't know the flippies, and then I got to give out Johnny's phone number, so it's not good when you have it upside down. So let's see. Kelly, yes. We're going to go back to spirit boxes because I like to have one in every group. This particular spirit box is going to go through the same things like what Ed's has, right? It's going to go through all the different radio stations. I do have another one that we're going to be using this exact same style. I am going to give you a set of earbuds. I do not want them back. Tristan, you're going to get the other set. I do not want the earbuds back. The reason why is because, obvious reasons for a pandemic, but this kind of gives you a personal inside touch of what you're listening for, and it kind of helps out because you're going to be the only one that can hear it. You're basically going to be shouting out whatever you hear. Alright, so your only button you need to worry about is right here at the top. It's a wheel. You're going to control the volume, but once I get Tristan set up, I'll get you guys each a set of earbuds. Now Tristan, the one you're going to be using is going to record the entire session.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So, wow, is there another party going on? The recording that Tristan has will not hear anything that we're doing, and even if he turns the volume down, it stays at a nice even level for you guys. The cool thing about that is I'm going to spot check it tomorrow morning. Every 5 minutes, I'm going to listen to about a minute to a minute and a half and give you whatever I hear. It's going to help train your ear to listen to the rest of it. If it's relevant to the person, location, or even something one of us, I will give you the backlink of where I got my information from. Again, this isn't because I told you so, it's because the ghost told us and I learned it from somewhere else. So that way you guys can continue verifying all the info. So you're going to get this one, again, the volume is right here at the top, and then I'm going to get you a set of earbuds.
I've never used this before.
Kelly, take back the earbuds.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It was my least favorite.
It was.
All right. First, Megan, your spirit box works a little differently. These two have earbuds, they have listeners, you have a watcher. So what's cool about this one, yes, this one is a phone app, I will explain it. This one's going to give us a series of words from time to time in the center of the screen. It's going to save all the words to a list. Last night's list, they didn't have that many. That's kind of crazy. This says 146. That's too many. I must have had it running in my office. I usually get about 75 to 80 terms. This is a phone app that is meant to be a game and a hoax. 80% of what comes out of this thing doesn't mean anything, right? We're going to call it, just BS. The other 20%, again, person, location, one of us. I'll tell you why, and then give you the backlink of where I got the information from. I don't need to see the list with every word that comes up. I'll come to you and say, Megan, where are we at with that list? You're going to hit the little white button next to this, to the word that's going to pop up, and then it'll give you the word list. You'll be able to scroll through it. The first word that popped up was ceiling. So I'm going to call that as part of 80%. Doesn't mean anything at this point, but again, it is a great tool to have. This is usually my first go-to. It also gives me timestamps on everything. So that kind of helps me look at the other stuff. It's cool. K2 meters. You guys have all seen this stuff on TV, right? So these are pretty standard. So basically this one is going to measure in milligauss, and both of the ones that I use are in milligauss. anything that this guy does, I need to know what it is. I'm going to try to debunk it. Of course, I don't have my phone on my hip anymore. My phone will make this thing go into a rhythm or a pulse. So again, it's kind of my first way of debunking what's actually happening, if it's coming from some kind of electrical wiring or anything like that. And it is also a great stopping point, so Tristan knows when to stop and ask questions. So I'll kind of get into that. It doesn't make any noise, nor does it vibrate, but you're going to be my first go-to of like, hey, something might be happening. You get to carry the bag. Okay. You're going to be my multitasker.
Oh boy, okay.
You got this.
No pressure.
No, right?
So, this is what we call a millimeter. Yeah, lots of crazy terms. It's going to measure EMF the same way Kim's does. Hers only goes to 25 milligauss. I've seen yours spike out at 200, just so you know. So, it's a little bit, it's way more accurate, let's just put it honest. That's why I helped debunk with that thing. The bottom number is ambient temperature. In the event, where is the thermal? Johnny, if he finds something on his camera, you and I can debunk it by where is the cold spot coming from and figure out what's going on to actually prove it legit or not. Last but not least, you have a REM pod built into this guy. This is the cool part of this. So if something actually gets close, it always takes a minute to kind of reset itself. We're obviously close to some electrical wiring as well.
Ghostbusters.
You heard Ghostbusters?
No, that. Looks like Ghostbusters.
Kind of. So, it's obviously going nuts because the parking meter electrical lines are underneath here, but in the event something gets close to it, it will go off. Right now, it's detecting all the electrical wires that we're standing over top of. There we go. Perfect. So, when obviously it's not your motion, there's ways to figure out if it's coming from you or not, and I'll show you more about that at our first location. Obviously, that can get very annoying, as you guys all just heard. So again, leave the antenna in, leave the flap open. I'll show you more at the first stop. All right. All right, guys, I'll meet you at the end. Let me know what you find. Oh, the bag is so much bigger. So much smaller. All right, so everybody, I just want to make sure everybody's good. We got something in everybody's hands. Cool. All right, so let's talk about why we started here. You guys got me talking already. You guys are either going to be really great listeners or I'm going to bore you to death. I don't know what's with all these giant parties walking around here today. Kind of craziness.
You have the expensive equipment, so we have to listen to you.
It's not like I can't chase you. Just letting you know. All right, Big John's is the reason why we start here. Big John, this place actually, it says right on the building, established 1955, but it just reopened as Big John's just a few months ago. It used to belong to a football player named Big John Kennedy. This was his bar. He sat in the back of the bar, letting the bartender know if the cadets coming over from the Citadel, if they were old enough to drink or not. One night, two guys come in. They're not old enough to drink. He has the bartender throw them out. They leave pretty mad, and they come back the next night and try to steal the cash register from the front of the bar. Why businesses put cash registers by the front door? Don't ask me. I didn't make that decision. John sees what's going on. He gets up from the bar and just starts pounding these guys into the floor, just beating the heck out of them. A couple of shots go off. John gets hit in the neck. The bullet lands in the wall. John gets up after being shot, goes back to the bar, tells the bartender, get me another beer, get those two guys an ambulance. Now, nobody died in that story, right? And it is kind of funny that John's the only one that got shot and he's the only one that got up. People that sit in the front of this bar get a little queasy, nauseous, headache from the paranormal activity that happens in the front where the bullet landed. Again, the bullet hole is what haunts this place. So, we're not talking about an actual spirit, we're talking about somebody's blood attached to this building. I bring this story up on purpose, which is another reason why we start here. If anybody feels any of the symptoms I just mentioned, headache, nauseous, queasiness, I need to know immediately. I'll just be honest, people have passed out from this tour. At our last stop, somebody reminded me to tell you of what happened just a few weeks ago, because it's relative to the story. So, again, it is, I know, you're like, what the hell did I just sign up for?
No, I just pass out easy, so.
So, again, let's not talk about our own health. I just have to put that heated warning out there so everybody knows what they signed up for. Megan's like, I'm really not sure now. She's distracted. Same building. Anybody, did you guys take any historical Charleston tours?
No.
Nope.
Nothing? I'm it?
You're it. I mean,
Absolutely.
I've been before, so.
All right, so we did, the reason I bring that up is because I'm going to talk about some of the things you may have already heard about, and if so, I can kind of speed through those portions, but since you guys have never done that, I'll definitely go into a little bit more detail. We had a big earthquake here in 1886. This is a big deal for us in Charleston because it's the East Coast. We don't get earthquakes. We haven't really had a major one since, to be quite honest. That was a 7.4 on the Richter scale, granted, if the Richter scale was invented in 1886, which it actually wasn't. This is where the first death occurred, allegedly, from that earthquake. A piece of mantling that you see in the middle of the building, the white bar goes all the way across into the front of the bar. A piece of it broke off from the earthquake, killed somebody, struck him in the back of the head, and they say you could see his ghost in the middle of East Bay Street. Notice I said apparently and allegedly along with that story? It's because I have no proof. It's just a great segue, so nobody's thinking about getting sick on the tour. Johnny's like, yeah, whatever, let's do this. I was like, I'm ready. All right, are you guys ready to go ghost hunting?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna go this way.
All right.
This thing is in like slow motion.
There are things, but I can't make out what they're saying.
My arms are gonna get tired.
Yeah.
Stop.
Everyone, I want you to think of your time with me tonight. It's kind of a ghost hunting 101. Okay, so this is going to be your level 1. This is going to be a very easy spot. We are not going to spend a lot of time here. It's just a matter of everybody getting used to their devices, especially you spirit box folk. So this is the big red barn lot. So obviously this is where we keep horses for your carriage rides. If you haven't taken a carriage ride, it's one of the things I actually do recommend while you're here, as far as tours go. I'm not going to recommend you guys other ghost tours, come on. But anyway, the only history here is really simple, and I kept it simple on purpose so that way I can kind of get more into the nitty-gritty of your devices. This is the same red barn where we kept horses that held horses that delivered milk and eggs to the residents of Charleston. So, I'm talking 1860s to 1920s. Really simple. So, let's talk about spirit boxes. There's 4 of them in play tonight. This is not television. This is not, is somebody here? Because that's what they all do on TV, right? We're going to stay away from yes and no questions, because if somebody answers no to Tristan, that means somebody's here, right? So they answered no. They gave you a direct answer. You guys are here for paranormal proof, whether you're a skeptic or not, which hopefully we're going to get that for you, and you will not get it from yes and no questions. So you're going to ask questions in this particular space like, what color is the big red barn? You know the answer, right? It's red. So obviously you're going to have somewhat of a subliminal message in the back of your mind. This is going to be the only place that you will have that. Once we move on from here, you will not be getting such simple answers to those questions. You'll have to get them from your spirit boxes. So, what color is the big red barn? Obviously we're looking and listening for the color red. I say looking because Megan has a word list. She can't hear anything on that. So, but keep in mind, 3 spirit boxes that are in play are using DJs and song lyrics to convey messages. The word red might not be in their vocabulary, but fire truck, heart, blood, those 3 things are specifically red. What color is the big red barn? Blood. That's an acceptable answer to me. However, most of the night, I'm going to actually require 2 pieces to kind of verify each other. For example, Megan, let's say you see the word art on your word list. And Kelly, you hear the number 40 on yours. Art Faircloth was number 40 on Big John's team. That's a verification to me. It does happen. We're going to have a lot of stories tonight with multiple people with the same names. Charles, Eliza, George. You're going to have a lot of those common names. We need to know who the hell we're talking to, right? Because again, you can just speak into the air and pray, but that's just not the way actual paranormal investigations work. So spirit boxes, definitely get used to them. I mean, we're getting a little bit of reading already. By the way, you're going to see me take notes of some of the devices that don't record anything, so that way I can make sure it's in your analysis tomorrow morning. I know the colors by heart, so I know you've already gotten up to about 15 milligauss. Have you gotten anything on your big numbers yet?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay.
0.0. It does say forward. Is it supposed to say that?
No, definitely not. So do me a favor, there's a button at the very top left column. Hold that button until it turns off, and then hold it back. Hold it again until it turns back on. So that's probably why you haven't seen anything yet. I normally start with the cameras here so I can show you a little bit more about your devices. As far as spirit boxes, I do want you to spread out. We're going to stay in this confines of this parking lot. People with cameras, I'm going to point out first and foremost, we are going to hit some spaces that have parked cars. So keep in mind, people do not like their cars being filmed. Imagine if it was your vehicle, they don't know what we're doing. However, if I was a car thief, Johnny's device would be the first one that I would take. It's a thermal imaging camera. I know how long every car has been sitting here by its heat signature. So just keep that in mind. But if somebody's walking to their vehicle, we're going to just simply walk away from it. We're not going to go in between vehicles either. Lasers. So you're the only one with lasers. I used to use a heat gun too, but I don't use it anymore. The horses do not like lasers. And again, vehicles, that you'll make the car alarms go off, and I'm faster than all of you, so somebody's going to get left behind, Tristan. So I'm gonna be poking fun at our youngest member tonight, just so you guys know, because that's just what I do. All right, so cameras stay with me. As far as spirit boxes, I do want you guys to spread out. If your partner has a camera and you need to stay around, that's fine too, so that way you can get the gist. But everybody else, let's spread out and get used to what your devices do, and I'm going to meet up with every one of you to show you more tactics. So you can definitely, I'm going to meet up with you next after the camera, so I can show you more about that REM pod.
Okay.
So does this work in partnership with cameras, the lasers?
Yes.
And do you have to like use one and then the other?
Actually, let's take care of you guys first then.
Yeah.
So, with your specific camera, you're already recording. So go ahead and I want you to keep in mind your green one. Go ahead and turn it back on. The tip will turn really easily. So you want to try to keep an array of dots on there at all times, and you want to keep it a little bit out in front of you. So even if you just point it out, so that way when we're watching the video, it's easy to see that it's not somebody's feet making a contoured shape. So really, what we're looking for on your end when I'm watching the video are things to basically pass by super quickly, even if it comes through really quick. This is a new method that we've been trying the past couple of weeks. We normally would have a regular digital camera, and somebody was literally taking hundreds of pictures through the lasers. Now, you don't have to look down at the dots, but you have to look.
Oh, really?
I'm literally looking for things between the pen tip and the grain. So I'm looking in this.
As long as the pen tip is towards the top of the picture, it's working.
So that one does that, and then what's the difference?
So this one, in the event if we capture something here, I can take the still from the video, and that's where I can put it in 3D software, and I can actually see what the full shape was with a measurement, so that way we can actually see what actually occurred there.
So here's a question that I just wanted to follow. So we have a friend that has surgery this year.
Okay.
We had a medical conference, and she used to take on this every year. So she's with us.
Okay.
I'm just really curious what she shot.
And it's
A good friend of ours.
It's a 50-50 shot.
That's
It's obviously a yes or no. I'll be honest. There are some times where I give tours and there's a vet on the tour. It doesn't matter what story I tell. Everything's related to that vet's friend that they lost overseas. So it's a possibility. I don't want to get your hopes up, but
She showed up in the cemetery a couple weeks ago to visit her.
okay. Very interesting.
Why are things called spirits?
So the draw from that is when you study thermodynamics and you actually understand how it works. The reason for that is because basically they're pulling from. I hate to use the word energy, but temperature is definitely energy. So thermodynamics, I also look for the places that are growing in heat as well. That means something else is growing cold. So the general gist is that whatever ectoplasm pieces that they're working with are actually colder than our natural air and ambient temperatures. So
Why are you asking your question?
I
don't know what to ask.
Especially when I'm talking to folks that don't get into science and understand. Like that, I get it. You guys already explained that.
Yeah.
But basically, when I say let's go and close the video, this is flashing, which means it's recording. This is the button we're going to hit so it stops flashing. With your camera, if we get too close, notice how my hand reaches things out.
Yes.
There's a button right here. You can turn the short range off, but leave your long range on.
Oh, okay.
So right now I turned it off, so go ahead and turn it back on, and it should be able to. Alright, guys, get used to it. Go ahead.
So with the spirit boxes, so you're trying to capture kind of like
Right, it's on FM.
So is that how the meeting works? They're just kind of using whatever energy they have to actually.
It's almost like they're stopping it for a long period of like the period of time that we need to hear whatever the message is. So what color is the big red barn? We could get Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer out of that.
So you just have to interpret it through.
Exactly. It's a lot of interpretation. Yeah.
So this is just intermittently just catching any kind of FM frequency here. So
It's literally skipping through all of them in a fast rate. It's just gonna go through it thousands of times.
is there going to be anything that I can discern that's locking that up, or is it just?
Nope. It's all based on your interpretation. That's why I give the open air one to multiple people, so that way you guys can all say, I just heard the color red, or I just heard, the number 40. What does that mean? Let me catch up with Nick.
A minute ago, I just heard horse and horse and blood.
So he has horse. So again, obviously, we're near the big red barn. His is recording.
It's not anymore. It turned off, and now it's doing.
And now we just know when it-
No, it was recording a minute ago in the horse and blood.
Yeah, so you're gonna see recording.
Yeah.
All right, let me catch up with the other camera because they've been waiting. And again, I don't want to spend too much time here. So, super weird that the battery pack keeps shutting off to keep the camera charged. That is just really odd. Let's go ahead and hold it still for me.
Yes, sir.
Everything is in place. I don't know why it keeps shutting off. So, unless the battery is just full. But normally that blue light is on all night long, and it just helps keep the camera charged, because the camera will only last for an hour. So, I mean, this is a 2-hour ordeal. So, again, obviously I don't need it dying. So, did you kind of get the gist of why I want to keep somebody in view at all times?
Yeah.
All right. So, I'm sure you've already kind of panned around a little bit and kind of got the gist of, like, when somebody's not in view, things kind of fluctuate a little bit. So, that's basically, I mean, this is a large group for us, I mean, for this particular tour, so it's going to be easy to keep somebody in view. And again, it doesn't need to be, like, focused on somebody. Even somebody off in the distance, their heat signature is going to show up as probably yellow, maybe even a slight orange color, which is perfectly fine. It gives us a nice array. Also, keep in mind, you have a cheat sheet that will not show up on the video. See that bar on the right-hand side? That's giving you your highest point and your lowest point. So even if you're, are having a hard time seeing, whatever's actually happening in the screen, you can kind of just go based off that temperature base. I won't have that in the morning with the spliced video put together. It just doesn't show up. It's kind of like an in-the-moment thing only. But again, this is not a device that captures something every single night. What I will tell you is when it does capture something, it's a holy cow moment. Like, wow, check this out. Like, it's huge. So if we're not recording, obviously we won't capture anything. You should still be recording now. When I say, let's go ahead and kill your video, you're going to hit the red square. It'll turn to a circle, kind of give your hands a break. After our next stop, we're going to be going to our next stop, which is like 3 blocks away. So obviously we won't be recording for that. It'll kind of let the camera cool down, kind of give your hand a break from holding it up the whole time. Have you heard anything on your spirit box yet? Okay. So far Tristan has heard the word horse and he's heard the word blood. So again, we have definitely some relative terms here. He said it was recording at the time, but then it kind of stopped on him. Like it reset itself, which is weird. And he has the same device that you do. So I had to reset his device up to record. There's no SD card in yours because with that 2 recordings, you guys are going to be like, that's way too much. I mean, listening to this thing for more than 15 minutes, you're going to find can be a little dizzying.
It's a lot.
So, and again, you have 2 earbuds if you guys want to share it. I don't care what you guys do. You guys want to split, share, you move your devices around, just keep them within your party. It's the only thing that I ask.
Okay.
So, all right, let me follow up with the rest, and then we're going to go learn some roadies.
Cool. Thank you.
All right,
Walk with me.
Super cold over by the trash.
Really?
Yeah. All the bags specifically. You want to ask him a question?
What?
You want to ask him a question?
I think we're listening for the barn, aren't we? What
You
color
can
is the
listen
barn?
you can listen to whatever you want. Kelly, kick that piece of trash.
Huh?
Kick that piece of trash. By your foot, kick it. Everything's in slow motion. over there.
What?
Go over there.
Huh?
Go over there. It's saying the coldest thing is your shadow.
Real history. Instead of football players and ponies.
Do you want me to stop this?
You can kind of give it a break if you want. If your hands, need a little break.
It's got really
Your
cold.
discretion. You can put them side by side. The only thing is I usually break them.
That just got really cold.
Because really what you're doing is you're creating a bigger spectrum. So, don't mind that. You're basically creating triangles on spectrum. The only thing that I don't recommend is to cross them. Like, don't cross the streams. I know it's a bad. Bad Ghostbusters joke. Tristan, do you get the joke? Don't cross the streams. Okay. All right. So that way you can kind of actually have a much bigger area to be able to cover. So, all right. So let's kill the lasers for now. You can actually stop your video for now. Kind of give your hands a break. Turn down spirit.
What should I ask?
I don't know.
How old was Eliza when she got married? What should I ask?
I don't know. How many kids?
Huh?
How many kids do they have?
How many kids? I don't know. How many kids did they have? See if I can... Your pods are falling out. How many kids did Charles and Eliza have? Right?
I got it. Nope.
Eliza's here.
Eliza when she got married. I heard the name Matt come through. Don't know if that's relevant to anything.
You're yelling.
Huh?
You're yelling.
Oh, sorry. It's really loud.
Kelly. It could have been a kid's name.
Huh?
That could have been one of the kids'
That's what I was thinking.
My dad's name.
How old was Eliza when she died?
Yeah, we were there, but I think it's up here. Chris, just stay in the tree. Yeah, right.
It's hard to keep track of everything they're saying.
What do you mean?
Huh?
What do you mean?
Like, it goes through radio stations. So how old was Eliza when she died?
Alright, how are you two doing?
Good.
Are you hearing anything?
I heard the name Matt come through. Don't know if that's relevant.
What was it?
anywhere. Matt?
I got nothing for a Matthew. When you're talking colonial times, it wouldn't have been nicknames.
I know, that's what I thought.
So I automatically go to Matthew. So anything else that, I mean, no matter how silly it is.
Not yet. I don't think so.
Okay.
That's why I gave it to him, because I'm like, I don't know if I'm missing something or...
And it's not, you have the hardest job out here. Listening to this, I'm asking you to do something else with your senses that you're
Yeah.
not used to doing.
Yeah.
So it's really like focusing and trying to pay attention to what's coming through.
Yeah. Maybe
So-
that should be your job.
He's obviously focused.
He's a lot better at focusing than I am. Squirrel brain.
Yeah, but it's still fun
There's
to
a
listen
lot
to.
of sevens going on in here.
Sevens?
Yeah. I can't tell if it's 70s or like teens or what, but there's a lot of sevens.
Did you hear 70?
I did hear 70.
You want to take a guess on how old Eliza was when she died?
70?
It's pretty old.
I
for
did just
colonial
ask how
times.
old was Eliza when she died before you walked over here. See, and like I missed that. My brain is too scattered.
So you are hearing stuff. That's why I say.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
you,
it's jumping around a lot. That's why she put it in my ear. She's like, I can't keep track.
I'm really bad at ADHD.
and sometimes things will just scream out at you.
Yeah.
Keep going. You're on the right track.
Cool. Thank you. Get somebody in the front. How old was Eliza when she got married?
Helps when you know history too, like musical history. Because when I said 70s, there was a lot of 70s music playing.
Did you hear the word 70?
Yes, I did.
Okay, how did Eliza die? That's a virus. $90. How many kids were there?
That does not like to be turned up so much. You think this is just an Excel?
You know that corner more? How? 49, did you hear that?
How many kids did Eliza have?
That just said midnight, 12.
I think of walking into this parking lot right now.
I know, I see that.
How many kids did Eliza have? That's great.
Did you hear 3? I heard 3 too. So we've heard 3, 12, 49.
She definitely didn't have 49 kids.
I'm thinking years, 1949. What if that was the year the house was built?
I thought this was the 1700s.
Oh, you're right.
Look at that rooftop bar.
Huh?
Look at that rooftop bar.
I saw it. How did Eliza die? How old were Eliza's kids when she died? $11.
There's no way she had kids in her late 50s.
Now what do we got?
When we asked how many kids there were, we both heard 3.
No, but somebody else got the answer, which was 4. They had a direct answer.
Interesting. And then what else stood out? We got the number 49. Didn't know if that had anything to do with anything. We heard something else. What did we hear? But we both looked at each other. Oh, when we asked how Eliza died, we heard virus. Was she sick?
That's for speculation. We're going to talk about that.
Okay.
Did the mansion burn down?
It did. What'd you get?
Terrible fire.
It did.
How the heck? Did she
No,
get
I
a-
asked a minute ago. She told me to ask how many kids she had, and I immediately got 4.
Immediately.
That's correct.
Direct answer. Same way you guys got 70, we're just unsure of the answer.
Yeah.
So, all right. I say we go back over to the wall where we were, and I'll get you guys some answers.
Yes,
Okay.
I just got terrible fire.
How did she get in there?
He's young.
Huh?
He's young.
Yeah. That's crazy.
They like, it's easier to talk to younger people.
All right. So the only visual I have for the answer actually is an answer that just popped up. So the mansion did burn down in the Great Fire of 1861. Every tour guide in town, if you guys are planning on taking other tours, is going to tell you about a Great Fire of whatever year it happened in. Unfortunately for us, the only photo we have of the mansion is after the fire. So this is where you're standing right now. And somebody asked about the color of the house. We do not have any color photos. That question has been asked in the past with the answer of yellow. They don't know that for certain. So, but it's come up multiple times as yellow. So kind of take that for what it is. This happened almost 70 years after Eliza's death. So we're going to go into that because we did get some answers. Eliza died at the age of 70. We did hear that on a spirit box over here. So she died in Philadelphia from breast cancer at the age of 70 in 1793. So 70 years old is a long time to be living during colonial times. And you're looking at me going, breast cancer? Really? You said a virus, is what you guys heard.
Yeah.
They didn't know what she had. Breast cancer was not a known thing in 1793. 9 out of 10 websites will tell you, based on her medical records, that it was breast cancer. So, any guesses for any history buffs on who the president was that took her to her grave?
I got smart.
What's that?
There's Marvin. No Marvin. No Rudolph. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer on here too.
Well, that's what color is the big red barn. That's come up here in the past before too. Any other guesses on the president?
I can't math right now.
I'm bad at history.
Bingo. George Washington,
Yeah.
at his own request, wanted to be a pallbearer at her funeral based on what she did for our country to help get it started with her independence. That was not something, again, the tourism office taught me. That was something I came up with as an EVP twice in 1 week where I was like, there's got to be a tie to Washington because why the hell are we talking about George Washington on the radio? It just doesn't make any sense to me, especially when I hear it twice in 1 week. I found the answer, obviously, he was a pallbearer. let's talk about those kids. We did get a direct answer that there were 4 of them, so nice job. We got Charles, obviously, that I gave you, signer of the Constitution. Then there was Thomas, fought in the Battle of Camden, a Revolutionary War battle just south of here. He was captured and he was shot in the leg with a musket, which actually shattered his leg for the rest of his days. He was on a cane. So when I say silly things might come up, I heard the word left. It was his left leg. So again, just putting it in perspective for you. Baby George did not make it. We don't know exactly how old Baby George was, whether days or weeks, because his death certificate has the same month and year as his birth and death. They're the same thing. Here's the weird thing. A couple of weeks ago, I had a guest on one of my tours, and he basically told me, this was an English woman we're talking about, correct? I'm like, yeah, she was English. He's like, based on her religion, it is a great possibility, and I haven't found proof of this yet, that since the baby died, as an infant, they may have kept the baby mummified in the home, waiting for the mother's death for her to be buried with the child. I told you that Eliza was buried in Philadelphia. I want to say she's about 10 plots away from Ben Franklin, to be quite frank. They would have sent the mummified baby to Philadelphia to be buried with her. So if you wanted creepy, there's your creep effect for the Eliza Pinckney mansion site. So, what's that?
Did they send the memo?
I don't know. I don't know if that was true because there's no grave or headstone for George. So that's our second George. There is a third. I'm going to get to him. If you're confused on the second one, it's Baby George, President George. There's one daughter, Harriet, lived in Horry. She married in Horry, and Myrtle Beach is in Horry County. So it wouldn't have been a 2.5-hour car ride to go see her daughter. Lots of letter writing. So if Harriet does show up here, it's usually something based on letter writing, ink, pen, paper, published. Because yes, those letters were published. Let's talk about the third George. Eliza's maiden name was Lucas. So if you heard the name Luke or Lucas, you have a relative match. Eliza named baby George after her father. So her father's full name is?
George
Lucas. So, just easy for me to remember. I'm a movie guy. So, there's 3 different Georges that have a possibility of coming through here. The first Eliza, her maiden name was Lamb. So we have Lamb and Lucas, the names we're listening for there. Did you guys go rogue with any questions? So, again,
I asked Charles what happened in the mansion, and I didn't get anything, but then I got Eliza's.
And again, we don't exactly know who it was that was giving you the answer.
Yeah,
because we were trying different things with the REM pod, trying to see exactly who it was. Right. So you did hear terrible fire, so somebody did give you a direct answer. Did you have any other terms that showed up relative to anything that I just talked about? So the only thing that I'd seen on her list that was relevant so far was the word fortune. Now, I'm gonna, before we go any further, I did tell you that the house was broad against East Bay Street. If you've been to the Battery here already, you notice that the houses are skinny and they go long back. There's a couple of reasons for that. First reason is you're taxed based on how much street side you have of your home. So down on the Battery, they didn't want to pay all the taxes, so they made it skinny on the front and then pushed the long end back. The Pinckneys had a ton of money, a lot of politicians in this family. It was bragging rights to be broadside on the street. Also, your houses on the Battery are long that way because we have the piazzas with the doors on the front porches, right? So most of you are not from here, so piazzas is a weird word. But the reason for that is because they didn't want the smell of low tide going through their front porch and downstairs of their house. They left the top windows open to be able to cool the house with cooler air, and it would actually move throughout the whole house without air conditioning. So that's the reason why those houses are set up the way they are. So this one, a lot different, obviously, facing broad against the ocean, not to mention, they don't care. We have a lot of money, we're going to show it off. So that's the Pinckneys. They had, I think, 17 different properties all over town. It's a huge family. What's going to happen from here? Oh, there's tons of them. So the interesting thing, Charles, the son, actually goes by Charles Coatsworth Pinckney, because obviously the cousin has the same name. It's Charles Pinckney.
Right.
Was it last summer? Somebody showed up on my tour. His name was Charles Coatsworth Pinckney. He was obviously named after the same Pinckney that I was talking about here. And he was ecstatic to be learning more about his family history. What's going to happen from here, guys, is we're going to go up to Lodge Alley. So Spirit Box folks, I want you guys looking and listening for names. I'm not going to tell you what gender. Oh, speaking of, I did play a little subliminal word trick on you. When we got here, I told you I'm not going to be giving you answers like what color is George Washington's white horse, where George Washington was the answer to the pallbearer question. You all passed with a fail. Good job.
Yeah.
So I'm the wordsmith. I get to play with words, and it's the only one I play. I promise. So as we're walking up to Lodge Alley, I want you listening and looking for names through your spirit boxes, obviously. I'm not going to tell you what gender of names. I'll explain why once we get there. And your EMF detectors are going to go crazy because of the parking meters. You can ignore readings, leave off your REM pods. You guys can kill your videos and kind of give them a break. Definitely get us some footage once we... Everybody made it. Good deal. I know, that's a long track. It's the longest one we're going to do all night. Alright, so welcome to Lodge Alley. We definitely want to keep lasers off. This is a quiet zone, and we're next to a hotel, so again, this is kind of a brief stop. Did we get any names on your spirit boxes? Mary. Mary? Okay, anything else?
The only thing relevant to a name I heard was Marshall.
Marshall. Interesting. Possibility. The reason why I ask for names is this is one of our oldest streets in Charleston. So when we crossed that last crosswalk, we crossed over where the original Charlestown walls used to be. Charleston used to be called Charlestown, the walled city. This is one of the first streets we ever had. I have the full list of residents of every person that's ever lived here. These two buildings that we're leaned up against weren't here. Little tiny shotgun houses. Only about 5 to 6 houses down here at a specific time. The list is not lengthy, but the names I commonly get are Benjamin and John. Mary's a good possibility, just based on the time frame. I don't have it memorized, even though it's not lengthy. I always wait for Benjamin and John. These are residual ghosts, unlike the intelligent Pinckneys that we were just dealing with. Residuals doing the same thing over and over and over again. Children's laughter has been heard down here. And Benjamin and John, why bring that up? They both lived here in 1801. That's 2 out of 5 people that lived here. When I get that every 6 to 7 weeks, that's not coincidence. So, and it's not me telling you the names. I give the same spiel every night of tell me what names you hear. Somebody gets here and tells me, I heard Benjamin, I heard John, so forth and so on. Or I might catch it the next day. So every once in a while, a third name will pop up, Jane. Jane, also 1801. I don't know what's going on in 1801. I can't find any relevance to why those 3 specific names, but it's them all the time. So we're in Lodge Alley. Let me tell you why it's called Lodge Alley. Freemasons actually had a Masonic lodge here before people lived here. So words like Mason, granite, clay, things like that will pop up here all the time. Not to exclude Illuminati and Mason. I have caught Illuminati here several times. And you have to chuckle every time you hear it going, really? We're going to go with conspiracy theories on this one? So again, very interesting piece of our history here. Keep in mind too, why this is considered lower class people with those little tiny shotgun houses. If you're unfamiliar with that term, it's basically a 1 to 2 room house. You can shoot a gun through the front and it'll go out the back. That's why it's called a shotgun house. So sorry, that's a northern term. Sometimes I forget my audience. But those buildings down there across the street wouldn't have been there. So the smell of low tide, if you've never smelled it, would have been coming right through here. The rich aren't going to put up with that. So these were a lot of mariners, seamstresses. So we all know that that's code for, obviously prostitutes back in the day. So take that for what it's worth. Yeah, seamstress was a common thing that you could see, and there's quite a few of them on that list. Yeah, seamstress in Charleston usually means prostitute. So, what's going to happen from here? Obviously, continue to listen in on your spirit boxes as we move along. We are going to be cutting through this little neighborhood as we go along. We're literally right on the edge of where tour guides, which is me, is allowed to take you. I hate the fact that I have to follow these tourism laws, but again, it's ghost hunting. I'm teaching you history. It's a tour, at least in the city's eyes. So we're going to go to another alley that I've been kicked out of, and I'll tell you why once we got there. She's like, I'm in. Let's do this. And we're not going to go actually down the alley, only because there's going to be other tours down there. I'm going to take you to it and tell you the story that happens there, and we still get evidence even at the place that we're spectating from. It's a very interesting alley. The reason why I got kicked out of it is it is residential at the end of it. So my team was actually outside somebody's dining room hunting ghosts. It was not very cool. So again, I rerouted the tour. After that, we're going to learn some myths and legends based off of the list that we have going on here. The corner we're going to go to is going to be very busy. We're going to see some of those bigger tours we talked about of 20 folks. I believe there's one right down at the end here. You're going to see some very large groups. We stay out of their way because you all joined the annoying tour tonight with your blinky lights and noisemakers. So again, I kind of pinpoint where we're going to go based off the list. and how much can I stay out of their way? Just because I will tell you the other tour guides like to stop you guys and say whatever you're doing doesn't work, and that they have the real stories. They're telling myths, I'm giving you history. So again, take it for whatever it is. I'm just telling you, be prepared for another tour guide to say, what's he got you doing now? Especially on that one. No offense, Mike, but somebody's probably gonna stop. Just because it looks good. And then we're going to dive like one big last investigation on a female pirate. So you're in Charleston, you've got to know something about pirates before you leave here. This is a crazy, crazy story that I didn't even believe myself until I got kicked out of the alley we're about to go to and had to reroute to this new place. So the first night was kind of lame, and I'm like, I don't really know much. Let's talk about what I do know. You know, you're my experimental group, you know, that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, we started getting evidence left and right. I'm going to tell you about that when we get there. That's also the place, too, where I had somebody pass out just a few weeks ago. So somebody please remind me. Kim, I'm going to leave that to you.
Oh, thank you.
More responsibility. All right,
She's
so
the scared one. I'm not scared.
she wanted to run out of the Pinky Mansion site, just so you guys know. I stopped her.
I said, what?
I said you wanted to run
No,
based
because
off
she
the...
told me to ask